everyone. So it's been a little over a year since we first launched the OGP, so we wanted to take the time to share what we've been up to and discuss our plan over the next few months. And really the goal of this presentation is to have an open discussion about some of the key initiatives we'd like to push forward going forward. And after this presentation, we'd like to make sure everyone has a clear sense of what the OGP has achieved so far and what sort of initiatives we'd like to push forward over the next 6 to 12 months. So I'm going to start by giving a brief background on Reverie and the OGP and the sort of initiatives we've been working on, then touch on some of the stakeholder interviews we've done to help inform our direction going forward, and then discuss and go into some of these key initiatives and how we can work together to achieve them. So yeah, here I'm going to share some background on Reverie, the OGP, and the initiatives we've been working on. So what is Reverie? Reverie is an advisory firm focused on assisting protocols with a number of different functions, and this includes stuff like ecosystem build-out, treasury management, strategy, operations, legal, and since inception, we've worked with a number of different protocols with Osmosis on the grants program, DYDX, and others on other grants programs, being governance delegates, and even helping them design and implement their own governance systems. And I'm going to chat about what we've been doing for Osmosis specifically. So the OGP, Reverie launched the OGP over a year ago in April 2022. And since inception, we've funded around $4 million worth of grants across 78 different projects. And now we have around $4.5 million remaining in our treasury. And Reverie's role is really to lead these strategic initiatives and diligence incoming applications, scope out funding details and milestones, and then we're supported by the multi-sig who controls our funds and has a final say on which grants should be approved or rejected. And the multi-sig is composed of different members in the Osmosis community, such as validators, Osmosis community members, and other project founders. And once a grant is approved, Reverie works closely with grantees to ensure they successfully complete their projects and milestones. And then we communicate all of this with the Osmosis community and try to be as transparent as possible with them. So here you can see some of the grants we funded to date in terms of we funded 15 different batches of grants. The most grants we funded are in the infrastructure and tooling categories, as well as applications as well. And through our work with the OGP, we've funded a broad set of projects to help Osmosis grow. And these can be bucketed into 3 main categories: strategic initiatives, infrastructure and tooling, and applications. So strategic initiatives are really high-impact initiatives that drive a lot of value to Osmosis, such as the work we've done with Skip and what they've built with ProtoRev and what they're doing with POB now. We've put together an initiative around mesh security to accelerate its development, and also working on integrating MetaMask into the Cosmos ecosystem. In terms of infrastructure and tooling, this really is about funding developer tooling that makes it easier to build on Osmosis, such as fee abstraction and Select1 and Starship, but also things that improve the UX for the end user, such as Notify, DAO, and CosmoSwap. And then we also fund complementary applications to the core DEX, such as Zodiac, Croncat, Margent, which Sunny talked about in his talk earlier. And through our work funding many of these different teams, we've partnered with many great teams in the ecosystem. I've already talked about Skip and the work they've done on ProtoRev. They've really become one of the top contributors and teams in the ecosystem. Then we're working with Confio, Axelar, and Akash on the mesh security initiative, whether it's from a development standpoint or from a funding standpoint. We also work with many teams that have done a great job on their grants, like Nabla and Notional, which we can rely on with other projects going forward, and other teams more focused on security, like Range and Oak Security. And while we've partnered with many great teams already, and we have a good idea about which other teams we'd like to work with going forward, we really wanted to get a diverse set of feedback to understand what the OGP should be focusing on next. So we spoke to many different stakeholders to inform our direction going forward. So here I'm going to dive into the motivation of these stakeholder interviews. And the idea here was to help inform what the OGP should fund and brainstorm some key ideas with stakeholders. To do this, we spoke to over 20 different stakeholders in the ecosystem, from Osmosis team members, validators, community members, and other project founders. And we really focused on key questions around Osmosis's long-term vision, strategy, and roadmap, such as, should Osmosis be this permissionless DeFi platform, or focus on being a single-use app and focus on the core product, which is the DEX? And should Osmosis limit itself to the Cosmos ecosystem and focus on capturing this market, or look to expand beyond the Cosmos? And through these stakeholder interviews, we received a lot of great ideas and recommendations about what we should be thinking about through our seats as the OGP. And these can be bucketed into infrastructure and tooling, IBC expansion, accelerating the ecosystem roadmap, and having an innovation portfolio. So in terms of infrastructure and tooling, which is already something we've been funding a lot, we should really be focusing on improving the developer experience on Osmosis, as well as funding trading infrastructure that attracts more sophisticated traders, such as market makers and liquidity providers, to bring more volume and liquidity on Osmosis. We should also focus on expanding IBC beyond the Cosmos ecosystem to other ecosystems, such as Optimism and other rollups on Ethereum, which have been getting a lot of attention lately. And this is because Osmosis is uniquely positioned as the Interchain IBC hub. Then we should also accelerate the development of key ecosystem initiatives, like we've been doing with mesh security. And this involves funding infantry to support the development of multi-year R&D projects, whether it's for the Cosmos SDK, IBC, and other high-impact initiatives like account abstraction. And then we should also look to have an innovation portfolio of long-shot initiatives that really inspire and excite the developer community. And a great example of this is the work Skip has done on ProtoRev, which was really unprecedented and did a great job to attract a lot of developer attention to Osmosis. So given all these different conversations we've had and the recommendations we got, we discussed internally what sort of initiatives we should be focusing on over the next 6 to 12 months. And before I dig into these specific initiatives, it's important to reiterate what Osmosis's roadmap and vision is to understand how these initiatives fit in. So Osmosis's North Star is to offer a unified experience for storing and interacting with your crypto assets with the best UX in DeFi. And the idea here is first to lay the groundwork for a unified trading experience, which involves building all of this trading infrastructure, developer tooling, and complementary application to make sure Osmosis is in a good place to expand beyond the Cosmos. So over the next 6 to 12 months, the OGP will focus on accelerating a number of different initiatives, which can be bucketed into 3 main categories. And these are core product roadmap initiatives, Osmosis ecosystem development, and high-priority Cosmos initiatives. And I won't touch on each of these specifically, but I'd like to go through some of them. So first, in terms of core product roadmap initiatives, we'd like to focus on improving wallet UX and general IBC UX and account abstraction as well. And to do this, we'll fund integration tooling to make it easier to use the account abstraction standard once that's ready, and also make it easier to use Osmosis apps within the front end instead of having to go to a different front end each time you want to use an Osmosis app. And then we'll also think about whether Osmosis should consider adopting DVM through frameworks such as Evmos and Polaris to make it easier for Ethereum applications to port over to the Osmosis ecosystem. Then in terms of Osmosis ecosystem development, we really want to focus on improving the governance module. And this is particularly important because of mesh security and how many chain-to-chain contracts we'll have to negotiate through governance. And this will involve things like optimistic governance, multiple choice voting, and being able to batch multiple governance proposals together. And then, of course, keep funding infrastructure and tooling and complementary applications. And lastly, high-priority Cosmos initiatives. This will include bringing ETH and BTC restaking to Osmosis through mesh security to be able to leverage the security of these assets. And in order to do so, we will need to also connect with ZK IBC and fraud proofs. And this will also help us expand IBC beyond the Cosmos ecosystem. And lastly, we also want to put together a big effort to revamp the documentation and tutorials around CosmWasm. As we've heard from many developers, this is a big pain point right now when entering the ecosystem. And there are three main ways we see we can help to achieve these goals through the OGP. So first of all, we can partially partner with other teams to accelerate the development, like we've done with Nabla on CosmoSwap, as they focus solely on building the CosmoSwap UI, and the Notify team, the work they're doing on adding notifications to the Osmosis front end. Then we can also fully partner with an external team to lead initiative 0 to 1, which is what Skip and Notional have done on ProtoRev and fee abstraction, respectively. And lastly, we want to do this big ecosystem-wide efforts to coordinate funding across the ecosystem, like we've done with mesh security and with the MetaMask integration. And there are many ways we can work together to help Osmosis achieve these goals. So, for example, if you have any ideas in particular you'd like to work on or you want to be worked on, please let us know, and we'll try to find the right people to work on them. And similarly, if you know any great teams in the ecosystem or talented individual contributors, please let us know, and we'll find something for them to work on and onboard them into the Osmosis ecosystem. And in general, we're open to brainstorm and chat, so feel free to reach out at any time. There you can see our Twitter handle. We're also very active in the grants channel on Discord. And if you already have an idea of something you'd like to work on, please don't hesitate to apply for a grant. You can go directly on our website and fill out the application form, and we'll be in touch shortly after. Thank you, everyone.